Someone woke up feeling angry and confused. He couldn't understand why his vision suddenly went black. He moved his bangs aside and saw that his hand looked different. He also had a mushroom cap that he couldn't remove. He was completely dumbfounded until he saw his reflection in the puddle. He was a mushroom, and he couldn't understand what the hell was happening. He tried to recall what he last did. He was watching a pretty woman. Basically, he jerked himself to death and got reincarnated as a mushroom monster. I think this is better than being hit by a truck, kun, right? He complained about how he's supposed to pick up girls looking like that. He demanded his handsome face back. Suddenly, someone called him Brother Xingbao. Our MC slowly turned back. Then he froze in shock. He thought he saw a beautiful woman. He got excited, thinking there were beautiful girls even inside a mushroom dungeon. He rubbed his eyes and looked more carefully. Now, he saw it clearly. It was just a dull, wilted mushroom. This mushroom asked why he was saying so many weird things today. Xingbao realized he was just being horny. He asked what it meant and what he usually said. This mushroom informed him of what they normally say, and those were, "Intruders! Kill them!" and a scream. Xingbao couldn't believe it. Suddenly, someone yelled that there were intruders. The monsters had arrived. And these guys are what we call orcs. There were 2 orcs, Labu, a level 1 orc archer, and a level 1 orc warrior named Kabu. Labu was concerned since they didn't have a healer with them. Kabu assured her it was fine since the monsters there were at the lowest level. Plus, the dungeon monsters were really dumb. Their lines and movements were all fixed patterns. A level 1 little mushroom attacked them, but it was easily slain, which proved Kabu's point. Labu realized they could speedrun it again. More little mushrooms charged recklessly. Kabu cut them into pieces. Xingbao watched them and wondered why the mushroom men just charged straight like that. He asked if they didn't know to run if they couldn't win. His mushroom friend explained that the mushroom men were non-playable characters, so they just followed their programming, unlike players who were free. He asked if those 2 orcs were players. He thought players were usually humans. The mushroom answered that he was just an NPC with a few extra lines of exposition, so that was all he knew. Their conversion was cut off as something nearly hit them. It was an arrow. The archer orc suddenly targeted them. Our boy immediately started running away, but his friend just stood there. He yelled at it to run, but then he noticed it didn't move at all. It completely froze. He rushed back, grabbed it, and told it to run. But the mushroom calmly replied that fleeing wasn't part of the mushroom men's programming. Xingbao stretched out his hand and told it to take it. He grabbed the mushroom's hand, and instantly, a data anomaly warning triggered. The system kept warning them nonstop, but he didn't care about the programming or the anomaly. For the first time, the mushroom felt something. It was touched by his actions. Meanwhile, Xingbao was only focused on one thing: surviving. This left the orcs confused. Mushroom men weren't supposed to run away. Kabu frowned and figured it was a bug, so he decided he'd file a report to the admin once they got out. Bug or not, Labu wasn't about to let them escape. So Kabu decided to log out first to submit the form. He casually warned her not to die, but she laughed it off. There was no way she'd die in a place like this. Xingbao quickly looked around for anything he could use as a weapon, but his friend told him there was nothing. Mushroom men were programmed to be completely unarmed. Then Xingbao noticed something: a treasure chest. If they got lucky, there might be a weapon inside. But the other mushroom immediately shut that down. Those chests were designed exclusively for players. NPCs couldn't open them. It tried to reason out more about it, but Xingbao still tried anyway. More data anomaly warnings exploded in his head. But this time, it worked. He opened the chest. The mushroom beside him stared in disbelief. The old Xingbao would have never done something like this. It couldn't understand how he had changed this much. Xingbao exclaimed that there was a lot of good stuff inside. Suddenly, an arrow shot straight toward them. The mushroom had no idea why it moved like that. Mushroom men weren't programmed to protect teammates. But still, it stepped in. It ran in front of Xingbao and blocked the arrow. It refused to let anyone hurt him. Xingbao froze as blood sprayed out. The arrow pierced straight through his mushroom friend's chest. And before he could react, a second arrow was already flying toward them. His friend collapsed to the ground. And something inside Xingbao snapped. He swatted the incoming arrow away. From the cliff above, Labu watched everything. She was stunned. A lowest-level mushroom monster just deflected her arrow, and it even opened a treasure chest meant only for players. At that moment, she realized it. This wasn't just a bug. This was a serious one. In another setting outside the dungeon, Kabu reported the bugs they had found this time. A man in a robe replied that he understood. Kabu wondered how long the dungeons had been running and why there were still bugs. The hooded figure explained that it was precisely because the dungeons had been running for so long that oversights during maintenance were inevitable. He added that it was not surprising for various little bugs to appear. He explained that after defeating the human coalition, the Great Lich feared the heroes would cause trouble with nothing to do. So he designed the dungeon system for the heroes' entertainment. Since then, the heroes had entered the dungeon as players to grind monsters, farm resources, and level up. All to kill their boring time. And if players found a bug, they submitted it to the necromancers, the admins, and waited for them to fix it. Back to this one again, Labu decided she would fix it herself. She didn't want to wait for the admins. She unleashed an arrow, and Xingbao anticipated it. He cut it with his knife. He was surprised by his own agile movements and realized that the Mushroom Man body's base stats were actually pretty good. More arrows were fired at him. He parried them all. He realized, however, that it wasn't easy to close the distance under continuous fire with the Mushroom Man's short legs. He wondered if there was anything he could use to block the arrows. Then he noticed the empty treasure chest and cut it open. As the next arrow approached, he used the lid as a shield. Labu wondered how a Mushroom Man could know how to use a chest lid like that. She noted that his actions and behavior were strange. She continued raining arrows down on him, but the treasure chest cover blocked them all. To her, he moved like a player. She was caught off guard when he suddenly leapt toward her and cut her body in half as he descended. Her bow shattered in the process. She collapsed into a pool of her own blood. Suddenly, a notification appeared, congratulating him on achieving first blood. With that, he unlocked a Mushroom Man racial talent called Mycelial Network. Through it, he could link with minions, transmit information and spores, and even share their skills and experience. Once the shared experience filled up, he could level up. He also unlocked another racial talent called Plant Mushroom. With it, he could plant himself or his teammates into enemy corpses or nutrient-rich areas to absorb nutrients and restore HP. After full absorption, he could even acquire the enemy's class and skills. On top of that, he gained Shroom Form Switch, which allowed him to switch between his Mushroom Man body and a reshaped form. He didn't expect to get a system. But then again, after being reincarnated as a Mushroom Man, getting a system didn't seem that surprising anymore. He activated the skill Plant Mushroom. He stepped on the orc's torso and began absorbing it. It felt really good. Until he suddenly remembered something. He looked up toward the cliff. Since his friend had blocked an arrow for him, he decided it was time to save her. He activated Plant Mushroom again. The area was enveloped in a bright glow. Small sprouts began to grow from the corpse. Then, a leg started to form. Slowly, the shape of a human body took form, and eventually, it turned into a woman. When it was complete, she stood tall. Xingbao was so stunned he got a nosebleed. A beautiful woman had just been created. A status window appeared. She was a level 2 Mushroom Man Archer, guard rank, Archer class, with agility as her main stat, and the racial talent Mushroom Man Mycelium. This allowed her to extend mycelium after taking damage, absorb nutrients from enemy corpses, and heal herself. During this process, she could also absorb enemy skills and racial talents. She had already absorbed the Orc Berserk racial talent, which increased damage by 30% for 20 seconds with a 5-minute cooldown. On top of that, she specialized in ranged combat and gained the skill Parasitic Spore Bullet, allowing her to shoot spores into enemies, drain their nutrients without them noticing, and restore her own HP. This woman was now his subordinate. She addressed him as chief and asked to be given a name. A notification appeared, informing him that he had cultivated his first Mushroom Man subordinate and needed to name her. He wondered if Mushroom Men were usually nameless. Then he paused and thought carefully about what to call her. Finally, he gave her the name Saifeng. She acknowledged his command and declared that from then on, her name was Saifeng. Saifeng then asked which instance realm they would clear next. He was confused and reminded her that they were monsters, non-playable characters, so he declared that their top priority right now was to kill the remaining player. Later, only Labu's bones were left. Another orc stepped on them. Kabu was stunned that Labu had been killed by the trashiest kind of monster. He reasoned that a normal level 1 Mushroom Man could never do something like that. Then it hit him. This monster was a rare elite. Now, to him, this trip had definitely been worth it. Rare elites always dropped great loot. If luck was on his side and he picked up blue gear, he could make a fortune. He activated Orc Charge and rushed toward Xingbao. But his attack was parried. He even got scratched on the thigh. Xingbao realized this warrior was much tougher than the archer, A single slash had only done minor damage. The orc, enraged, cursed the mushroom man. He admitted he was surprised it had actually managed to hurt him. Unexpectedly, Jingbao turned and started running, and then he shut the door behind him. On the other side was a bridge. Of course, Kabu chased after him, smashing through the wooden door in the process. But then he stopped. The mushroom man was just standing there, not moving, not running. Kabu frowned. Why was it just standing there like that? A sense of unease crept in. It felt like a trap, but he reassured himself. No matter what, it was still just an NPC. Unpredictably, the mushroom man raised its middle finger at him. Naturally, Kabu was furious at being mocked. He roared that he would chop the mushroom man into paste. He stepped onto the wooden bridge, but his weight made it wobble. He raised his weapon and prepared to strike Jingbao. But then, his foot broke through the planks. The bridge started giving way, and the entire structure collapsed beneath him. He fell straight into the water. He cursed the despicable mushroom monster, accusing it of setting him up. Jingbao pointed out that the orc had even dropped his weapon in panic. He added that his movements were now restricted in the water. Then he threw a knife, but it only lodged into Kabu's shoulder. Kabu sneered. Even unarmed and slowed down, a weakling like that couldn't do much damage to him. But then, out of nowhere, an arrow suddenly pierced through the side of his neck. A few seconds before that, the orc stood on the water, mocking the weakling, completely unaware that an arrow was speeding straight toward him. The arrow struck. It pierced through the side of his neck, sending water and blood spraying as it landed. He turned, demanding to know who launched the sneak attack, but before he could react, another arrow hit his head, and just like that, he sank into the water. Saifeng's orc berserk effect faded, and the orc warrior was eliminated. They dragged the corpse onto the shore for Jingbao to do his thing. He activated his ability and absorbed it, and gained the power to reshape his appearance. Smoke filled the air. When it cleared, he was back in human form. Saifeng stared, surprised to see something swinging between his legs. Jingbao panicked, but then he realized it was just the axe handle. For a second, he thought he had forgotten to wear clothes and was fully exposed. A status window appeared. He was now Mushroom Man Chief Yang Jun, Rank Chief, Class Warrior, Blue, with Strength as his main stat, and at level 2. His Mushroom Man Mycelium talent allowed him to extend mycelium while injured, absorb nutrients from corpses and other substances to heal, and during that process, absorb enemy skills and racial talents. He retained the Orc Berserk talent, boosting damage by 30% for 20 seconds, making him far stronger in melee combat. Another notification appeared. Plant Mushroom had upgraded. He could now separate spores from his body, plant them into corpses or nutrient-rich areas, and grow soulless shroom minions. Their experience would be shared with him. These minions could even be transplanted into other minions. Current limit, 2. He also obtained loot. 2 magic pouches, small carry-on bags that could compress and store a limited number of items, like weapons. He asked how they were supposed to get out of there. She explained that this was the bottom floor of the mushroom dungeon, and the only way out was to fight their way up, floor by floor. He then questioned why level 1 orc players could enter directly. She explained that players had special privileges and could choose to start from the lowest level dungeons. He got curious about how she knew all that. She replied that she had overheard it from player chats back when she was still just an NPC. With that, he made up his mind. They would fight their way out, 1 floor at a time. They moved forward until they reached a fork in the road. He asked what lay on each path. She explained that the left led to the level 1 slime floor, while the right led to the graveyard. He told her to head to the slime floor and start grinding. As for him, he would check out the graveyard. When she asked what was so special about it, he smirked. It might be a graveyard now, but in the future, it would become their home turf. On the way, he picked up some ragged clothes and put them on. As he got closer, the smell hit him. Even from a distance, the stench was overwhelming. This place was where everything got dumped. Garbage, corpses, and who knows what else. He finally arrived. Even though the remains had been there for a long time, he could still sense leftover nutrients. He spotted materials mixed into the soil, potion residue, tar, even a torn magic book. With 1 slot left and enough nutrients, he decided to plant another shroom minion. So, he absorbed everything. A strong wind blew through the area. Then, something emerged. A mushroom, with a flaming head. A level 2 pyro shroom. Fire was its main stat. It had the skill Pyroblast, launching explosive fire attacks that engulfed enemies and drained their nutrients, and Blazing Sprint, boosting its movement speed by 50%. It looked intimidating. even if it was a bit small. Then he noticed something. Lights. His eyes widened. Lightning suddenly shot toward him. He reacted instantly and leapt away. Once he landed safely, he turned back and looked for the source. He was attacked by a level 2 graveyard dominator, a lightning snail. He realized it was a monster that fed on humus, making it a competitor occupying the same ecological niche as the mushroom men. He decided that it was time for the pyro shroom to shine. He ordered it to use pyroblast. A fireball rushed toward the lightning snail. It collided with the electricity and caused a huge explosion. The lightning snail was set on fire, but it counterattacked. It unleashed lightning strikes, forcing pyro shroom to use blazing sprint to evade. Our boy observed that the snail moved very slowly and recognized it as a weakness he could exploit. Pyro shroom released flames again, and upon contact, another explosion erupted. The smoke and dust slowly settled. It revealed a roasted lightning snail. Pyro shroom waved happily at Jun. Our MC then told it to stop fooling around and check if the enemy was completely dead. Pyro shroom gave an okay signal. Unexpectedly, its head was sent flying. The snail had come out of its shell. It was still freaking alive, and was now standing on 2 legs. Jun attacked immediately. The snail mocked him, saying he couldn't hit it. It moved behind him, and their attacks clashed. The lightning snail commented that he was slow as a snail. Jun realized that after discarding its shell, the creature moved as fast as lightning. He watched it dash around at incredible speed. He admitted that without its shell, it was much lighter. It charged toward him again. Our boy anticipated the attack. At the last second, he ducked, revealing the fireball prepared by Pyro Shroom. The fireball rushed straight toward the snail. At the last moment, the lightning snail evaded. More fireballs rained down on it, but it kept mocking them, saying they couldn't hit it. Jun simply observed. The lightning snail laughed, saying that even at the same level, he had completely missed. Jun calmly replied that he hadn't missed at all. He wasn't aiming for the snail in the first place. Then, the ceiling rocks came crashing down. The lightning snail finally understood his strategy, but it was still confident they wouldn't hit it. Then, Jun activated Orc Berserk and Orc Charge. The entire area turned chaotic. The lightning snail realized Jun was using the thick smoke as cover. It believed it could still dodge anything. But then, Pyro Shroom appeared. And at the same time, Jun rushed in from behind. It didn't expect him to layer one surprise attack over another. It was caught completely off guard. The impact was brutal. Its body slammed into the wall and splattered, leaving only blood behind. Jun placed his hand over it. A notification appeared, announcing that the electric snail had been destroyed, increasing his nutrient points and unlocking Shroom Soldier spores. He leveled up to level 3, and could now cultivate 3 Shroom Soldiers. He also learned a new skill, Etherealize. Through it, Shroom Soldiers connected to his mycelial network could awaken, absorb nutrients, and increase their combat power. He planted a new Shroom Soldier, Volt Shroom. Its main stat was electric, a fast-moving unit that could convert absorbed nutrients into electrical energy and release electric shocks to attack enemies. It entered an ethereal state. Now, his forces included a level 3 Volt Shroom and a level 2 Pyro Shroom. He was pleased. He ordered them to clean up the area quickly. From this point on, this place would be the Mushroom Men's base camp. Then he paused and wondered how Saifeng was doing. It had been a while since he last gained experience, which meant one thing: she might have run into trouble. Meanwhile, Saifeng defeated numerous slimes, until a monster showed up and asked if she was the one shooting his underlings like target practice. This was the level 2 Slime King. It remarked that she looked strangely familiar, like it had seen her somewhere before. Before it could finish speaking, it was hit. Annoyed, it complained that it hadn't finished talking and called her rude. He was surprised when another attack was about to come. Several arrows struck him, but it claimed that poking holes in it was useless. It punched Saifeng. The impact was strong. Slime King boasted that it wasn't like those underlings. Its body was highly malleable, and physical attacks would only make it lose a bit of fluid. It added that it only needed to keep absorbing moisture from the ground, making physical attacks completely useless. It told Saifeng to die. It was about to throw a heavy punch. Saifeng didn't move. To its surprise, its arm exploded. It got confused as to why its body was collapsing. Then it saw mushrooms growing on its body. A lot of them quickly spread across its back. Even the groundwater beneath its feet was drained dry by the mushrooms. It wondered when the mushrooms started parasitizing its body. Then it realized the parasitic spores might have been on the arrowheads from the start. Recognition hit, and it remembered her as that pink-capped mushroom man. Its body eventually dissolved and dropped a horn. Saifeng got the loot, the devoured Minotaur horn. This unlocked a new ability, allowing June to use his own mycelium to create bowstrings and arrows, with mycelial string arrows able to fire magic skills. The Minotaur horn was then stored in the magic pouch. Then, she absorbed nutrients from a slime corpse, causing her experience points to rise significantly. The effects on her were also felt by June. A notification announced that Saifeng had leveled up to level 4. She unlocked Mycelial Arc, allowing her to create bowstrings and arrows using her own mycelium, and her mycelial string arrows could fire magic skills. Another notice revealed that Yang Jun had also leveled up to level 4. He unlocked Force Shroom, a skill that lets hostile shrooms in the mycelial network resonate, gather information about an area, and greatly improve coordination through the network. Saifeng eventually arrived at the graveyard and saw the shrooms cleaning up. She had come to help clean after finishing over there, but didn't expect the 2 newly planted shroom soldiers to have almost cleared the place already. He remarked that it was fine since the area wasn't that big anyway. He examined the Minotaur horn and commented that the material was really good. It was far better than the broken cleaver from the treasure chest before, even better than the level 1 orc player's axe. Still, he regretted that they didn't have a craftsman who could turn it into a weapon. She asked if they should go catch one. He replied that the newly learned skill was perfect for that. He suggested they look around for any players or corpses nearby with craftsman skills. He spread out his mycelial network. Probe shrooms sprouted across the field. Through it, he sensed players fighting nearby. 3 monsters had cornered a man. They told him he had nowhere to run and should just come back with them to forge weapons. The man refused. He didn't want to go back and become a slave. He accused them of working his clansmen to death while forcing them to toil. The blue orc-like monster told him to die instead. The craftsman died. Through the probe shroom, Jun realized he was too late. She asked what was wrong and why she couldn't see anything. He explained that she would be able to see once she extended her mycelium and connected to the network. She followed his instructions, and soon she could see as well. Since things had come to this, if he couldn't save the living, he could at least save the dead. He reasoned that death was just living in a different way. He began releasing spores through the mycelial network. While they were busy, Pyro Shroom and Volt Shroom were fighting over a garbage bag. But in an instant, Pyro Shroom vanished. A red light glowed brightly where the craftsman's corpse lay, and it revealed a level 4 Pyro Shroom dwarf craftsman. Its primary stat was strength, and its fire affinity gave strong resistance to fire. As a dwarf shroom, it possessed traditional crafting skills, along with higher resistance to toxins and physical attacks. Of course, it had a craftsman skill, so it specialized in forging and creation, and with the blessing of the fire attribute, its forging efficiency was even greater. It also possessed the special skill Cannon Mycelium, releasing a controllable chain of fire connected by Cannon Mycelium. The torch chain could link to the network for shared vision while absorbing nutrients stored in it to boost damage. When he regained consciousness, he was confused. Through a small shroom, Jun spoke to him. He told him that he had resurrected him and turned him into one of his shroom soldiers. From that moment on, he named him Firehammer. Firehammer tried to protest, but Jun cut him off, saying he understood, and explained that his probe shrooms had already been tracking those trolls. One of the trolls told their boss that if all the dwarf slaves dropped dead from exhaustion, they would no longer be forced to work. The boss snapped back that he was an idiot. The level 3 troll player underboss explained that if the ones at home died from exhaustion, they would just enter the dungeon and capture more. He added that the dwarves weren't completely extinct yet. There were always survivors hiding in the dungeon. Then he suddenly noticed something was wrong. He demanded to know why mushroom men were there when their nest was right next door. One of them guessed it was probably a wandering elite monster and said he had no idea how it ended up there. Another declared it was their lucky day, thrilled to find an unexpected harvest. He threw his spear. The mushroom man just stood there. Then he revealed a large hammer and threw it at them. They saw it coming. A loud explosion followed when the hammer hit the ground. The troll almost got hit, but he dodged at the last second. To his surprise, the hammer started to levitate and struck him before he could react. They were shocked to learn that the hammer could auto-target enemies. He couldn't understand how a level 3 elite monster could have such high-level equipment. The hammer flew again. One troll blocked it with his sword. He managed to push it away. It flew upward and got lodged at the top of a spike. Firehammer used it as leverage and, through a flaming rope, grabbed onto it while running at high speed. Then, he leaped toward the trolls. A troll was about to throw a spear, but his hand was restrained by mycelial entanglement. And it was followed by mycelial ignition, causing his hand to explode. Firehammer targeted the next one. He jumped onto its back, slamming its face into the ground. He saw another one about to attack with a morning star, but he landed a punch first and sent the troll crashing into the mountainside. Firehammer pulled his hammer back to him. The troll was shocked when he broke the wooden pillars above to cause a cave-in. Even after taking a few hits, the troll stayed confident. He thought he could still dodge the next attack. Firehammer unleashed Firehammer Ignition. The hammer was covered in flames. Then he activated Flying Hammer Fire Rain. The troll knew there was no way to dodge it. When it hit the ground, the flames triggered a chain of explosions. The system notified that the giant deer player had been eliminated. A notification announced that Craftsman Firehammer had reached level 5. He unlocked a new skill called Scrap Recovery, allowing him to strike debris left by the hammer and recover any usable parts. Another notice revealed that Jun had reached level 5 and unlocked a new item. Bundle Foil. A rare and durable work hoop that could be assigned to subordinates to help with daily tasks like forging, gathering, and cultivation, and in emergencies, it could also be used as a Jaeger. Saifeng had also reached level 5 and unlocked a new skill, Instant Backstep, allowing Jifeng to teleport to an arrow he had fired through an arrow thread. Jun told him he had done a great job. He sent the coordinates and told them to come find him. Moments later, they met, and Firehammer hesitantly asked if his chief was human. Jun explained that the reshaped form of a mushroom man was influenced by the race they had in life, and since he had been human before, he now looked human. He added that Saifeng had also been human before being turned into a mushroom man by the Archmage, so her reshaped appearance was human as well. By that logic, he concluded that Firehammer was roughly the same. He changed the subject and asked if Firehammer could use the horn to forge weapons for them. Firehammer agreed that the horn was good material, but he warned that they still needed other materials, and it didn't seem like there were any around. Jun replied that this was the Great Graveyard, so materials would arrive soon enough. He heard a noise above, and not long after, weapons started being dumped through the hole. They picked up a discarded magic iron bracelet. Firehammer used a salvage hammer to reforge it. He threw it into the furnace. Apparently, these wasted equipment are turning into magic iron ores now. On top of that, a level 5 farm shroom assisted him. Firehammer used his forging hammer again, and told the chief that the weapons were done. He also used scrap materials to make him some pants and shoes. He examined the exquisite double-edged sword closely and realized it was far better than the crude orc axe from before. He said it was a really good weapon. It had low magic power. The user could infuse mana into it to cast spells from the blade. The material was quite common, so there was a risk of damage if high-intensity spells were used for too long. Saifeng held an exquisite mycelial bow. It also had low magic power. The user could use their own mycelium as the bowstring and channel spells into the arrow through it. If it fired enchanted arrows of very high intensity, there was a risk of damaging the bow itself. Firehammer told him he had sewn a magic pouch into the lining of his clothes. Now, it was much easier for him to take out weapons. Saifeng asked where they were going next. He answered that they were going to punch through the floor. Over the past few days, he had used the mycelial network to explore the area. The Great Graveyard was at the very bottom. If they went straight up through the garbage chute, each floor had a one-way barrier that only allowed movement downward. But at the end of each floor, there was a passage leading to the next level. So, if they wanted to go up, the best way was to fight through every floor. Besides, they couldn't just let others stay peacefully in their territory. Saifeng asked if they were bringing Firehammer, saying that having one more shroom meant more strength. She felt that Firehammer wasn't just good at forging, but was even more ruthless when fighting. Someone had to guard the place, and they couldn't clear other areas only to return and find their home gone. Still, through the shared mycelial network, Firehammer would gain experience when they killed monsters. He stepped on something and felt a force. A wall dropped down, separating him from Saifeng. He wondered if it was a trap hidden within magic sigils. Now he understood why the probe shroom couldn't detect it. He laughed and said that with the wall's thickness, all he needed was one punch. He wrapped flame mycelium around his fist to create a fire attribute explosive attack. He punched it, but instead of breaking, he was blasted backward. A magic circle appeared where he struck. He realized the trap wall was reinforced with a magic array. Trying to break through it wouldn't work. He added that he and Saifeng would have to take different paths. Since that was the case, our MC turned around. The path ahead led into the Instance Realm's slimy corridor. After they were separated, the terrain changed. He could see many eyes in the dark entrance. He watched carefully and realized it was a snail's nest. One snail recognized that he was the one who killed their brother in the Great Graveyard. He told the others to get him, so they attacked him with electricity. Jun planted his Volt Shroom. The electric attack struck the ground. The snails thought they had hit him and finally got their revenge. To their surprise, one of them was cut in half. Then it happened again and again. Jun moved at incredible speed, forcing the snails to switch to shellless mode to move faster. They were determined to show him the terror of the shellless tribe. but they sensed the mycelium. In a blink, Jun had trapped all of them and activated mycelial detonation. It triggered a series of explosions, and he kept receiving notifications of increased experience. Moments later, he reached the door and went inside. It should have been the boss room, but it was empty, until he sensed something. A monster jumped onto his back. Fortunately, he escaped in time. He saw a snail shell. It spun toward him. He blocked it with his sword, but it kept spinning. The force launched him into the air. That's when he used his mycelium. It latched onto the shell, and he activated mycelial lightning channeling. An explosion followed. The area filled with smoke. The level 5 Snail King revealed itself. It was a tall, bipedal snail with armor and a sword. Jun realized there was a second phase, and he found it interesting. Meanwhile, Saifeng drew Jun in her mushroom form on the ground. She noticed that after being separated by the wall, there wasn't a single monster on her side, but she was still gaining experience from the mobs shared from the chief's side. They were clearly in the middle of a fierce boss fight, and she really wanted to go help. Back to our MC, the clash of swords didn't stop. Jun was still locked in combat with the Snail King. He parried the attack and countered immediately, but the Snail King slipped away. Then, it rolled into its shell. And from a narrow opening, it fired water beams. Jun instantly realized it was water-type magic. He released his mycelium and anchored it to the wall to pull himself up. He didn't know what kind of liquid it was, so he stayed cautious and chose to dodge first. The moment it hit, his mycelium slipped. He froze for a second when it wouldn't stick anymore. He dropped straight into the puddle, and the attack came instantly. Fortunately, his reflexes kicked in and he blocked it. But even then, he was pushed back. The surface was insanely slippery. He couldn't even stand properly. He quickly realized even the ceiling might be coated with the same fluid, which explained why his mycelium failed earlier. The Snail King declared this was his home ground, and Jun had zero chance of winning. The next strike forced Jun to drop his sword. The Snail King rolled into a ball again and moved in to crush him. Water burst out like a fountain from the impact. Seeing the mycelium, the Snail King asked if he was a mushroom man, then mocked him for daring to compete, calling him nothing more than something at the bottom of the food chain. Electricity surged through Jun's hands as he reached into the water, and the blast sent the Snail King flying away from him. The current spread fast through the water, but the Snail King's aura crushed it instantly. Jun didn't expect that. The Snail King scoffed and said that since Jun had already used that move once, he wouldn't fall for it again. Jun tried attacking using the water's conductivity, and the Snail King found it amusing. It declared that this was its home ground, and since it could control the smoothness of the water surface, it could also increase electrical resistance and weaken any electric shock. Jun admitted it had some control over water, but as the saying goes, dodging well isn't as good as standing in the right place. That made the Snail King glance down. There was mycelium in the water. It froze for a moment, wondering when the entire area beneath it had been covered. Then it realized it had already walked straight into the trap. But the Snail King wasn't worried. It believed it could still control the water's resistance and weaken any electric attack. Jun didn't buy it. He activated Ignite. The Snail King stayed arrogant until it saw the flames. The fire surged instantly and swallowed it whole. When the flames died down, only a charred body remained. Before it fully turned to ash, the Snail King asked why he suddenly switched to fire. It muttered that Jun didn't fight by the rules. The system window appeared, showing that he and his subordinates had leveled up to level 5. He was informed that they could now generate mycelium wrappers on the go, allowing them to compress equipment and store it inside their bodies. He learned that his probe shroom could now function as a network download terminal. He was also told he could now cultivate boom shroom guards, a heavy unit capable of both melee and ranged combat. These could attach to enemies or weapons using their own mycelium, then explode, dealing massive damage and leaving behind magical effects. The exact damage depended on the attribute used during cultivation. When fire points were added, it triggered explosions that dealt area damage and ignited targets. The explosion strength scaled with the minion's attributes and could be triggered manually by the chief. Aside from that, he received a notification that Saifeng had comprehended the core skill Spore Canister. It required building up Spore Rage through normal attacks and skills. Once maxed, she could fire a powerful arrow that, upon impact, scattered spore bombs across a wide area, causing massive explosions. He was also informed that Firehammer had comprehended the core skill Reckless Smelting. This also required building Spore Rage through combat. Once maxed, it could be released through the hammer, rapidly purifying materials in contact while breaking down impurities. He was notified that the isolation seal wall had been lifted. he noticed an unfamiliar human scent coming from beneath the pile of rocks. He called Firehammer to check it out. Firehammer punched through the wall and reached him. There were piles of black rocks. Jun asked if he knew what they were. Firehammer replied that they were black rot stones, formed over time from compressed magic waste and humus. Jun asked if they were valuable. Firehammer said garbage plus garbage was still garbage. No normal alchemist or blacksmith would care about that kind of material. But that was before he became a mushroom man. He then declared that now, it was good stuff. The trace amounts of magical residue that were hard to extract before were easy for him now. He activated mycelial extraction. He said it was as simple as flipping his hand. The extraction finished, revealing a magic silver stone fragment. He added that with this method, he could even extract epic tier mana fragments. Materials like these were highly valuable to players. Jun was surprised. Then he wondered if the piece was too small, like they couldn't make anything useful out of it. Firehammer pointed out there was still a whole pile left. He asked for some time, saying he might be able to dig out more from below. Jun agreed and left the cave to him. Firehammer began extracting the mana fragments. A moment later, he obtained several items: a magic iron stone fragment, a magic aluminum stone fragment, a magic silver stone fragment, a magic copper stone fragment, and a magic gold stone fragment. Suddenly, the ground shook. Jun told him to dig all he wanted, but not collapse the cave. Firehammer replied that it wasn't him. A giant worm monster with rows of sharp teeth was the cause. We then see a shroom charged forward, but it was lifted into the air. Jun grabbed it and asked where it was going when it wasn't its turn to kill yet. He told it to stay back and run errands for Firehammer. He told Saifeng to go. She agreed. He noted that the new shroom soldiers had been linked to the mycelial network and that she could call on them any time. Meanwhile, the probe mushroom sensed something. It reported that the enemy was about to break through the ceiling of the black rot stone cave. They couldn't let it in, so Jun ordered them to distract it and move the fight into the corridor. The probe shroom understood. It taunted the worm, causing it to make a loud noise and move in a different direction. Jun asked Firehammer what kind of bug it was, saying it looked like it was charging straight at them with a clear target. From the sound, Firehammer guessed it was a scavenger blackbug. It had a natural frenzy for humus, making it a strong rival in the same niche as the snail tribe. He added that he would make the fight easier once he finished his setup. At the same time, Saifeng attacked the scavenger blackbug. It was pushed back. She kept striking along its body until her rage filled up. She created distance between them. After all that slashing, it only left a shallow wound. She said it had a tough shell. It had even chipped the chief's blade. The probe shroom told her that the new gear Firehammer made for her was ready. She could download it directly from the mycelial network. The download started. 6% loaded. In no time, it reached 86%. The scavenger blackbug moved toward her. Fortunately, the download finished and she obtained the magic silver arrow. She gathered energy around her and aimed at the blackbug's mouth, and unleashed a fully charged Shatter-Edge Roar arrow. She fired it. Then she was forced to jump back when the scavenger blackbug charged at her. She kept her distance. The arrow was lodged in the blackbug's mouth, and mushrooms began growing inside it. The mushrooms started to glow. The scavenger blackbug got close to her, and its body began exploding from the inside. Only ashes were left. But the probe mushroom warned her not to relax yet, saying there was more coming. It reported that probes in the distance had already spotted another blackbug heading their way, but she was already breathing hard. Jun asked through the probe shroom if her stamina was running out and told her to quickly convert the monster corpses into humus to restore HP. He also suggested that, in the meantime, she should use the newly cultivated shroom soldiers to hold it off. A shroom was summoned. It was a level 6 boom shroom guard. She saw that only 2 appeared. Jun explained that the maximum squad size was 6 and it was already full. She explained that, excluding the transplanted Volt Shroom and Firehammer, the active roster included the chief, Firehammer, herself, 1 worker shroom, and 2 boom shrooms, making exactly 6. And counting the probe shroom, it exceeded the limit. The probe shroom replied that it didn't take up a slot since it was part of the mycelial network. It was like an off-roster unit. The blackbug appeared. The probe shroom observed the creature and noted that since it kept its mouth tightly shut, it might be afraid of getting blasted in the mouth again. A boom shroom coated its weapon in fire and threw it at the blackbug, causing an explosion. The blackbug was clearly hurt. The other boom shroom attacked with a sword. It struck the upper body of the blackbug and shoved it away. They watched it fall. Saifeng wondered if the new shroom soldier was strength type, since it had sent the massive blackbug flying with a single strike. The boom shrooms regrouped. One of them approached the blackbug to pull its spear out. while the other charged at it and threw a self-destructing flying sword into its mouth. The black bug's upper body exploded, the system window appeared, showing that our MC's experience points had increased and that the Mushroom Man tribe had reached level 7. He learned that he had unlocked the chief exclusive skill, Lone Sovereign. For every subordinate missing from his side, whether fallen or not deployed nearby, all his stats would increase by 10%, up to a maximum of 100%. Probe shrooms no longer needed to vibrate their caps to fly. They could now levitate freely. He could now cultivate a new shroom soldier, Archer Shroom. A ranged unit. It fights with a short blade in close combat and can shoot split arrows with different attributes. It can also deploy a spore umbrella from its cap for short glides. When deployed beside Saifeng, it gains a troop inspiration effect. All stats, plus 10%. Aside from that, he could also cultivate a new shroom soldier, Tunneling Shroom. A worker shroom that had absorbed the burrowing ability of the scavenger blackbug, it could drill through mountains and dig tunnels to reshape caves. When deployed beside Firehammer, it gains a captain inspiration effect, work efficiency plus 10%. Saifeng was impressed by the combat power and teamwork displayed by the new shroom soldiers. Through a probe shroom, June wondered how shroom soldiers without souls could move and fight with such smooth coordination on their own. Saifeng asked what he meant. Jun explained that the chief was controlling them through the mycelial network. Deep within the cave, glowing pink energy spread across the ground. Jun sat upon his stone throne and directed the shroom soldiers through the network. He found the whole experience surprisingly entertaining, almost like playing a game. A magical projection of June appeared before Saifeng. He ordered her to clean up the battlefield and deliver anything useful to Firehammer so new equipment could be forged. As she stood among the remains of their enemies, pink energy began spreading across the corpses. The remains dissolved into liquid before vanishing completely. A system notification confirmed that a scavenger blackbug corpse had been decomposed and absorbed. She acquired limited black cleave skin, granting a hardened epidermis similar to that of a blackbug. The system also explained its limitations. If physical damage exceeded 50% of the user's total health, the skin would shatter and begin reconstructing itself, becoming temporarily unavailable until the process was complete. Saifeng picked up several glowing blue teeth. She noted that the teeth were incredibly durable since they had remained intact even after multiple explosions. She added that bringing them back to Firehammer for weapon crafting would be a great idea. As she prepared to leave, a powerful gust of wind suddenly swept through the cavern. The air converged at a single point and carved a deep hole into the rocky ground. A massive vortex formed and drilled deeper and deeper into the earth. Far below, a cloaked figure watched from the shadows. The system identified him as low-level admin Death Reaper number 10. He found it strange that every monster on the lowest floor had suddenly become unresponsive. He was particularly annoyed that the 2 black bugs he had sent down, whose levels far exceeded anything on the lowest floor, had been completely wiped out. For a moment, he considered going there personally, but he quickly abandoned the idea. The pay simply was not worth risking his life. Then he noticed that there was still plenty of expendable cannon fodder available. He turned toward a group of bacteria monsters and asked whether any of them wanted to become players. The bacteria were shocked. They wondered whether they could actually become players, too. They had always assumed they would spend their entire lives slowly molding away inside the dungeon. The Reaper reminded them that their statuses had been granted by him. He activated purple magic through the book in his hands. The system announced that player privileges had been unlocked for the bacteria. They could now move freely, open treasure chests, and fight monsters. After finishing his work, the Reaper guided them toward the newly created hole. The Reaper ordered the Horde to charge into the depths below. He promised that if they resolved the problem, they would be rewarded with ownership of the entire lowest floor, along with all the black rot stones they could ever want. He declared that the future of their race depended on this mission. The bacteria army immediately surged forward. One bacterium asked the boss where exactly the bug was because they had not seen any sign of it. The other bacteria remained silent. Soon, several of them spotted a giant treasure chest. One bacterium became ecstatic and rushed toward it. After spending so long rotting away in the dungeon, it could finally open a treasure chest. Better yet, it would not have to split the loot with any of the other bacteria. The bacterium reached the chest and forced it open. It carefully peeked inside. Suddenly, a hand shot out from within the chest. The hand grabbed the bacterium and dragged it inside. The lid slammed shut. Pink energy wrapped itself around the bacterium. Then, without warning, something abducted it. Another bacterium glanced backward and realized its companion had vanished. The captured bacterium was dragged across the rocky ground and pulled deeper into the cave. It tried to cry out, but its mouth was clamped shut. Moments later, it disappeared completely. Soon, another bacterium noticed something strange. It realized there should have been more of them. The group had entered the cave together. It asked its companions where the missing bacteria had gone. One bacterium simply shrugged. Suddenly, an arrow cut through the air and killed one of them. The remaining bacteria were shocked. One of them demanded to know who had attacked. It looked upward and spotted the culprit. The attacker was Milan, a level 7 archer shroom. Thanks to her captain's inspiration effect, all of her stats had increased by 10%. She timidly apologized for attacking them. Saifeng immediately scolded her for apologizing to the enemy. Milan panicked and apologized to Saifeng as well. Saifeng could not help thinking about how fierce the black bug had been, yet the archer shroom created from its corpse had somehow inherited a timid personality. Milan apologized once more as she drew her bow. Then she released another arrow. Crackling energy surrounded the projectile. The arrow struck a bacterium. The bacterium smugly declared that if it did not demonstrate its strength, she might actually think it was weak. This bacterium activated Split Arrow. The attack scattered across the battlefield and struck multiple bacteria. The victims stared in confusion. Then they collapsed one after another. Even the bacterium who had launched the attack was stunned by the result. The elite bacterium proudly declared that its race had survived for millions of years. There was no way they could be wiped out by simple physical attacks, especially not while it was in command. Milan calmly pointed out that high temperatures were required to properly eliminate bacteria. She gathered fiery energy into her bow. A flaming arrow shot across the battlefield. It struck another bacterium directly. The projectile exploded on impact and engulfed the target in flames. Milan immediately celebrated her first victory. Saifeng scolded her again and reminded her to confirm the kill before celebrating. Milan timidly agreed. Then both of them suddenly sensed something. Milan was the target. A powerful attack crashed into the rocky terrain where she had been standing. The Bacteria King greatly enjoyed the privilege of becoming a player. The system identified him as the level 8 Bacteria King. He was thrilled that he could finally leave his territory, move around freely, and push beyond the limits that had restrained him for so long. Saifeng leaped down from the cliff to avoid his attack. She told Milan that the monster was far too dangerous for her to face directly. She ordered her to retreat farther away and focus entirely on ranged support. Milan agreed and apologized for causing trouble. The Bacteria King suddenly jumped down from the cliff. The ground shattered beneath his tremendous weight. Saifeng immediately raised her bow and fired several arrows. The Bacteria King casually deflected every single shot. Then a flaming arrow streaked toward him. The Bacteria King parried it as well. The arrow exploded behind him. He mocked them for being weak. Milan felt disappointed that even her explosive arrow had been blocked. Saifeng calmly stated that making him turn his head was all she needed. She immediately released 3 more arrows. The Bacteria King burst into laughter and asked whether his pressure had frightened them so badly that they could not even aim properly anymore. All 3 arrows had apparently missed. Then he suddenly froze. When he looked behind him, he discovered that the tails of the arrows were connected by strands of mycelium. The arrows had embedded themselves into the surrounding walls and formed a trap around him. His body was restrained. The Bacteria King scoffed and claimed that a few strands of mycelium could be broken with minimal effort. He flexed his strength and attempted to tear through the restraints. Instead, a surge of energy shot through the mycelium and shocked his entire body. Saifeng observed him carefully. The Bacteria King was left steaming from the attack. Saifeng immediately ordered the Shroom Guard to cut off the bacterium's head. The Shroom Guard charged forward without hesitation. Suddenly, a swift slash flashed through the air. Saifeng and Milan were both shocked. The sword strike never reached the Bacteria King. Instead, the Shroom Guard suddenly froze in place right before delivering the finishing blow. Saifeng could not understand what had happened. She wondered why the Shroom Guard had stopped moving and why it refused to swing its sword. The Bacteria King let out a smug laugh. He revealed that when he had been pushed to the brink, he had started infecting the mycelium strands restraining him. During that process, he discovered that everything in the area was connected through the same network. Because of that connection, the Shroom Guard had already been infected before it could complete its attack. As a result, the guard no longer obeyed any commands. The Bacteria King mocked their dependence on the mycelial network and declared that they would all be infected together. Spores rapidly spread throughout the cave. A rain of infection descended as the Bacteria King laughed triumphantly. Jun immediately ordered every shroom connected to the network to disconnect and remain offline. He promised that he would arrive shortly. Saifeng immediately followed the order and disconnected from the network. Milan disconnected as well. Saifeng glanced at her hand and wondered whether she was still infected despite severing the connection. A severe bacterial infection warning suddenly appeared before her. She collapsed and coughed up blood. Milan became completely paralyzed and fell to the ground. The Bacteria King laughed at their condition. Now that they could no longer move, they were completely helpless. He explained that disconnecting from the network was pointless because his bacteria could spread through the air itself. According to him, the battle was already over. Just as he approached the two helpless shrooms, Jun arrived. Without hesitation, he kicked the Bacteria King. The impact was so powerful that the Bacteria King was launched straight into the ceiling. Saifeng immediately apologized to Jun for being infected. Jun did not blame her. Instead, he admitted that the mistake was his. He had failed to gather enough information about the enemy beforehand. He ordered her to take the others and retreat while he handled the battle personally. The Bacteria King's head remained embedded in the ceiling. He pulled himself free. Then he demanded to know whether Jun was the boss of this place. The Bacteria King immediately dove downward with a vicious strike. Jun blocked the attack using his axe. He continued parrying every incoming blow. A system notification appeared. One subordinate had left the battlefield. As a result, all of Jun's attributes increased by 10%. Jun retaliated with a fully charged strike. Their weapons collided again and again. Saifeng watched the battle closely. Suddenly, the Bacteria King chuckled while blocking another axe strike. A second notification appeared. Since two subordinates had left the battlefield, all of Jun's attributes had increased by 20%. Jun suddenly raised his free arm. The movement caught the Bacteria King completely off guard. Then Jun unleashed a devastating punch directly into the bacterium's face. The full force of the blow connected. The Bacteria King was sent flying backward. The ground shattered upon impact. The Bacteria King could not understand what was happening. Each of Jun's punches felt heavier than the last. Before he could recover, Jun suddenly leaped toward him. The sudden charge caught the Bacteria King completely by surprise. Then Jun unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. Jun continued hammering the Bacteria King relentlessly. He knew better than to stop attacking a monster before the system confirmed the kill. Suddenly, something felt wrong. He coughed up blood and dropped to one knee. The Bacteria King laughed and mocked him, saying they never seemed to learn. He explained that intense close combat only sped up the infection process. He remarked that Jun had truly gone all out and nearly hacked him to death. Then he revealed that his parasitic bacteria had already spread throughout the flora covering Jun's body. The Bacteria King activated his parasitic bacteria healing skill and began regenerating his wounds. He declared that his counterattack was about to begin. Jun was caught off guard. The Bacteria King kicked him hard and sent him flying. Jun skidded across the ground and dug his axe into the floor to slow himself down. The bacterium locked onto him and suddenly vanished. Jun immediately sensed an attack coming from his blind spot. The Bacteria King unleashed Tetanus Blade. The strike landed directly on Jun, leaving a deep slash across his body. The bacterium pressed the attack, unleashing Golden Bacillus Blade. It followed up with Bacillus Blade cutting at Jun mercilessly. The relentless combo slammed Jun straight into a wall. The Bacteria King rushed forward to end the battle with one final strike. He pinned Jun against the wall. Then he mocked him, asking whether he still planned to resist instead of accepting a quick death. Otherwise, he would slowly torture him alive with his bacteria. Jun asked what bacteria he was talking about. To the monster's shock, the bacterial plaques covering Jun's body suddenly vanished. Reeling backward, the Bacteria King could not understand what had just happened. A system notification appeared. Because all of Jun's subordinates had evacuated the battlefield, all of his stats were boosted by 60%. It also displayed Saifeng's shared skill, Limited Black Tough Skin, which created a hardened epidermis that shattered and reconstructed whenever physical damage exceeded 50% of maximum health. While reconstructing, the skill remained unavailable. Jun raised his arm and blocked the next attack. Then he unleashed a powerful slash and revealed that he had brought antibiotics. The Bacteria King was stunned. Jun threw his axe, and it pierced straight through the Bacteria King's shoulders. and then he pulled. His mycelium dragged the Bacteria King directly toward him. The Bacteria King's body could not resist the pull. One day earlier, in the Great Graveyard, Jun learned about antibiotics. Firehammer explained that the black rot stones contained small traces of antibiotics that had once been used to fight bacteria. These were leftovers from alchemy bottles discarded by high-level players, and over time, the residue had seeped into the stones. Jun remarked that while others threw such things away, he collected them. What was worthless to others was priceless to him. He ordered Firehammer to gather more for future use. Firehammer immediately agreed. Back to the present time, Jun infused his attack with antibiotics. He unleashed an antibiotic strike. The attack blasted the Bacteria King backward. The impact shattered the walls of the cave and sent a massive shockwave through the area. Chunks of debris exploded outward from the force. A massive crater formed beneath the bacterium. The Bacteria King lost his limbs, and a huge hole was blasted through his torso. Struggling to his feet, the Bacteria King declared that physical attacks were useless. His bacteria could regenerate endlessly, but when he looked at his hand, it failed to regenerate. He was horrified to discover that his bacterial reproduction ability had been completely suppressed. Suddenly, bubbles began forming all over his body. A moment later, he exploded from the inside out. A system notification confirmed the elimination of the Bacteria King. Jun and all of his subordinates advanced to level 8. The party successfully learned the racial skill Bacteria Resistance, increasing the Mushroom Man race's resistance against bacteria by 30%. They also unlocked the Decoy Shroom skill, allowing them to rapidly grow harmless mushroom clones from spores to lure away enemies. In addition, Orc Berserk evolved into Mushroom Man Berserk, granting a temporary 30% boost in combat power by forcing mycelium through the veins. Finally, the system announced that the archer subordinates had learned net arrows, enabling them to fire mycelium nets capable of capturing and restraining targets. After that fight, a mushroom field was being cultivated. Saifeng commented that the mushrooms were growing beautifully. Jun explained that after extracting the useful materials, the decaying residue left behind by the black rot stones was perfect for growing mushrooms. Firehammer happily announced that it was time to eat. At the same moment, the system notified everyone that Ethereal State had been deactivated. Gathered around a table, Jun said that everyone had spent a great deal of energy during the battle, so he was treating them to a staff meal to help them recover. Milan asked what a staff meal was. Jun realized that the term came from his original world, so it was only natural that she did not understand it. He explained that it was a free meal provided by a workplace. Firehammer confidently declared that mushrooms were staff, so a meal made from mushrooms was naturally a staff meal. Milan immediately accepted the explanation. Jun found the logic strangely refreshing, while Saifeng nearly burst out laughing and had to cough to hold it back. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the Reaper sat alone in silence. He waited beside the crater. He noted that the bacteria monsters had failed, realizing it was time to find a new batch of cannon fodder. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. The sensation reminded him of the scavenger blackbug, though he clearly remembered that every one of them had been killed. A crimson light burst through the cave. Then a massive monster erupted from beneath the ground. A system notification identified the creature as the tunneling Earth Star. Grown from the corpse of a scavenger blackbug, it was described as a gigantic engineering shroom capable of crushing mountain rocks and absorbing useful substances from the debris. While highly effective against heavily armored units in combat, it required careful planning due to its demanding planting conditions and lengthy cultivation period. The admin Grim Reaper was stunned. The creature standing before him was not one of his black bugs. Our MC stood atop the tunneling Earth Star. He demanded to know whether the Reaper was the one responsible for sending players into his territory. The Reaper immediately realized that Jun was the bug he had been searching for. Gathering his energy, he declared that the timing was perfect and decided to eliminate the bug personally. He unleashed a skill called Admin Light Beam, Wrathful Account Deletion. A beam of purple energy surged outward. The tunneling Earth Star's petals began to spin as it charged directly into the attack. The Reaper was shocked that he was actually being suppressed. Then, a massive explosion erupted as the Earth Star slammed into him, but he managed to step back and withstand the impact. The Reaper was shocked by how much the player had grown in only a few days. Realizing he could no longer handle the situation alone, he decided he needed to request higher authority from his superiors. Before he could do anything, Jun snatched the privilege book from his hands. The Reaper was dumbfounded. He desperately lunged forward and demanded that it be returned. But Jun's fist met his face. and knocked him to the ground with a single punch. The Reaper groaned in pain. Jun noticed how important the book seemed to be and wondered what kind of book it was. The Reaper refused to say anything unless Jun promised to spare his life. Jun pointed out that everything was already written inside the book anyway, so there was no reason for him to explain it. Sweat trickled down the Reaper's face. He turned and fled, desperately trying to escape. He reasoned that losing the privilege book did not matter as long as he survived. He swore that one day he would return with a massive army and wipe out Jun's entire clan. What he failed to realize was that Jun had already locked onto him. As he ran, a powerful attack suddenly slammed him into the ground. The Reaper thought he had been ambushed. Milan revealed herself. She activated Ignite, releasing a massive burst of blazing energy. The roaring flames traveled through the mycelium attached to the arrow lodged in the Reaper's body. Terrified, the Reaper begged for mercy and offered to negotiate. The flames exploded and completely engulfed him. Milan slowly descended from above using her slow descent skill. She realized that the Reaper had been trying to negotiate. She apologized for attacking too quickly. Jun replied that it did not matter whether a low-level administrator had something to say or not. He was far more interested in the Book of Privileges they had obtained. Saifeng asked whether the book had any practical use. Jun explained that it allowed them to monitor the movement trajectories of monsters and players within a limited area. It could also remove rule-breaking players from the dungeon. Most importantly, it had the authority to grant certain NPCs the status of a player. Jun pointed out that once an NPC gained player status, they could leave their restricted zones, open treasure chests, and mine ores freely. Saifeng suddenly realized that they could have left their original territory long ago and continued expanding upward. She wondered whether they already counted as players. Jun corrected her. According to the book, they were classified as bugs. Saifeng immediately understood. As long as the bug remained unresolved, other administrators would continue sending players down to eliminate it. Suddenly, an incoming administrator communication request appeared on the book. Saifeng worried that answering it might expose them. Jun told her there was nothing to fear and instructed her to answer it. A Reaper's face appeared on the screen. Immediately, he looked annoyed. The Reaper saw that he was speaking to another Reaper. He demanded to know why it had taken so long to answer. Jun, disguised as the Reaper through his mycelium, nervously explained that he had been delayed while dealing with the reported bug. The administrator scolded him and said that taking so long to handle a simple bug was exactly why he deserved to stay at the bottom forever. He then reminded him to mark the bug's status as resolved later. Jun laughed awkwardly and acknowledged the order before asking if there were any additional instructions. The administrator pointed out that his sudden enthusiasm was unusual since he normally avoided work whenever possible. He then mentioned a data anomaly on the 3rd level from the bottom and ordered him to investigate and resolve it. Then the call ended. Saifeng was amazed that Jun's mycelial disguise had successfully fooled the administrator. She asked whether they were planning to head down to the 3rd level from the bottom. Jun replied that there was no need to rush. Since they were being treated as cannon fodder anyway, he decided to first expand the mycelial network and scout the surrounding area. Suddenly, Saifeng noticed that Milan was nowhere to be seen. Jun could not sense her through the mycelial network either. He quickly realized that she was offline. He immediately contacted Probe Shroom and demanded to know where it was and whether it had seen Milan. Probe Shroom replied that it was currently at the end of the 1st level. It urgently told Jun to come over at once and see what it had discovered. Jun quickly arrived at the cave entrance where Milan had disappeared. Probe Shroom confirmed that it had followed Milan's spores all the way to this location before the trail suddenly vanished. Every time it tried extending the mycelial network beyond this point, the connection was severed. Jun carefully inspected the area and noticed that the massive tree root had been chewed apart. Realizing that whatever lived here fed on wood, he began to suspect something. He stared at the enormous tree root covered in bite marks. Jun realized they were dealing with termites. Saifeng concluded that they had no choice but to retreat to the 3rd level from the bottom, but our boy immediately declared that he was going up to rescue Milan. Saifeng stopped him. When Jun asked why, she explained that this situation was different. Normally, they would spread their network first to gather intelligence before making a move. But since the mycelial network couldn't reach the upper level, they had no way to gather information. She warned that they would be charging straight into the enemy's nest blind. As their chief and strongest trump card, if anything happened to Jun, they would have no backup plan. Saifeng volunteered to go instead. She promised to transmit any intelligence she gathered as soon as the opportunity came. Our protagonist told her to stay safe and promised to reinforce her the moment she needed help. As she drew her bow, she wondered if using the mycelial dash to shoot straight up would be too flashy. She asked if the termites would notice it. Jun reassured her that termites were basically blind. Even so, our MC reminded her that termites still relied on other senses to detect intruders, then gave her a few final instructions. We then see a worker termite patrolling the tunnels. Its antennae brushed against something. The termite identified it as a mushroom. Excited, it grabbed the mushroom and carried it away. Through the shroom, the pheromones exchanged between the termites were automatically translated for Jun. The nearby termites watched with envy. One complained that the worker had gotten incredibly lucky. Another wondered how it had managed to find such a valuable prize. They all realized it would take all the credit and probably look down on them from now on. In reality, the mushroom was Saifeng in disguise. She couldn't help but admire how perfectly Jun had predicted everything. She didn't even have to sneak in because the worker termites carried her inside themselves. Saifeng quietly laid down a strand of mycelium. The moment a worker termite sensed it, it exclaimed that it smelled delicious. That single strand instantly threw the entire colony into chaos. The termites found the mycelium completely irresistible and immediately started fighting over it. Watching the commotion unfold, Saifeng finally realized why they hadn't received any news from Milan. The worker termite carried her past the ordinary soldier termites. Eventually, it tossed her into a pit with a loud thud. Speaking to a larger soldier termite, the worker explained that it had discovered a brand new fungus strain and asked the soldier to guard it carefully. It promised to come back and feed him personally once it had grown into mushrooms. The soldier simply responded with a huff. Saifeng popped out from the pile of debris. She looked around at the surrounding wood chips and spore balls. It seemed this place was a fungus garden where the termites cultivated mushrooms. Just then, a nearby voice told her not to worry. She turned and spotted another mushroom. The mushroom explained that worker termites only ate spore balls and had no interest in sentient mushrooms like them. He then introduced himself as Xiao Kong. After greeting him, Saifeng asked if he had seen a little shroom girl wearing a red cap with black spots, a black top, and a pink skirt. At first, Xiaokong shook his head. Saifeng described Milan in more detail, saying she always wore an apologetic expression. She added that Milan looked a little blank and silly, and constantly apologized for everything. Xiao Kong immediately realized who she was talking about. He revealed that Milan had been taken away as an offering to the termite king and queen. The moment she heard that, Saifeng started climbing the wall. Surprised, Xiao Kong quickly asked where she was going. She replied that she was going to rescue the little shroom girl. Then she asked why Xiao Kong wasn't leaving. She pointed out that he would eventually be eaten too, since sentient mushrooms were offered to the termite king and queen. Xiao Kong refused. He explained that staying there would at least let him live a little longer. If he tried to escape, the soldier termites would kill him on the spot. Suddenly, a soldier termite's head dropped from above and landed right in front of him. Xiao Kong looked up in confusion. The entire area had fallen into chaos. Curious, he climbed up to see what was happening. The moment he looked around, he gasped in shock. Every soldier termite guarding the fungus garden had been slaughtered. Xiao Kong stared in complete disbelief. She had wiped out every single soldier termite protecting the area. Deep down, he nervously wondered what kind of shroom she really was. Deep inside the nest, elite soldier termites guarded a massive burrow. One of them announced that it was time to present the captive to the termite king. Before it could finish speaking, a loud crash echoed through the tunnel. The termite immediately turned toward the noise. Another soldier termite had fallen. The elite soldier demanded to know what had happened. In the next instant, Saifeng appeared right behind it. The soldier spun around and demanded to know who she was. She answered with her blade. A flash of steel sliced through the air. With one clean, powerful slash, she beheaded the elite soldier termite. Milan was overjoyed when Sai-Feng arrived to rescue her. Sai-Feng quickly cut through the ropes binding her. Milan immediately thanked her. Instead of comforting her, Sai-Feng smacked her on the head. She scolded Milan for being an idiot and letting herself get captured so easily. She promised they would settle the score after they escaped. The two immediately took off running. Milan worried about the countless soldier termites blocking their escape. Sai-Feng reassured her that June would be there to back them up. Suddenly, Sai-Feng sensed something was wrong. She stopped instantly and told Milan to stay back. Milan accidentally bumped into her. She asked what was wrong. Sai-Feng sensed an overwhelming killing intent ahead. She suspected they had walked straight into an ambush. The next moment, a massive swarm of soldier termites burst out from the walls of the deep, dark cave. A group of soldier termites lay in ambush. One of them ordered his brothers to tear the woman apart the moment she showed herself. Soon they spotted something approaching. Sai-Feng emerged, disguised as a shroom. The soldier termite was baffled. Instead of the bun-haired attacker, a strange fungus strain had appeared. It wondered if their intelligence had been wrong. Suddenly, the little shroom hurled a rock while shouting, "Super lethal flying stone!" The rock smacked the termite right in the face. Silence filled the tunnel. The soldier termite flew into a rage. Furious that such a tiny pipsqueak had dared to hit him with a rock, he charged straight at her. He ordered the entire swarm to come out and rip the intruder to pieces. The swarm immediately gave chase. Meanwhile, Sai-Feng watched everything unfold. She declared that the decoy mushrooms had successfully lured away the ambushing soldier termites. With the path cleared, she quickly led Milan down another tunnel. Milan worried that the evacuation point was still too far away. Sai-Feng reassured her that they were almost there. She explained that June was using a tunneling shroom to dig an escape route. However, she warned that they couldn't get too close yet, or they would alert the termite swarm. Suddenly, a huge rock crashed down right in front of Sai-Feng. She noticed it instantly. Then she shouted for Milan to watch out. Before Milan could react, Sai-Feng grabbed her and threw her backward. A massive soldier termite burst out from a tunnel it had just dug. A brilliant flash of energy exploded. The two collided head-on. Milan cried out in alarm. Sai-Feng told her not to worry and ordered her to retreat according to the plan. Holding back tears, Milan apologized and ran ahead. She promised that she would carry out the retreat mission exactly as planned. Sparks flew as the battle grew even more intense. Sai-Feng kept her eyes locked on her opponent. Just before the crushing blow could land, she leapt backward. She landed gracefully, now standing face to face with the soldier termite captain. The soldier termite captain praised Sai-Feng for surviving one of his attacks, but he mocked her, claiming Milan would never escape because another ambush was already waiting along her route. Sai-Feng was secretly shocked that the soldier termite captain could speak the common language. She immediately realized it had evolved. She pointed out that the enemy had concentrated all of its heavy forces on the other route. That meant the smaller force on Milan's path had no chance of stopping her. Mycelial energy surged around her weapon. She drew her bow with complete confidence that Milan would make it out. The captain frowned, wondering why she was aiming at their own mushrooms. Without hesitation, she fired a powerful arrow. Meanwhile, Milan kept running. The glowing arrow suddenly flew past her. She remembered what Sai-Feng had told her earlier. Milan had asked how they could lure hidden enemies out if they walked into an ambush. Sai-Feng simply replied that they only needed to take advantage of the enemy species' instincts. Sai-Feng had reminded her that termites couldn't resist chewing on mycelium. The glowing arrow pierced deep into the ground before erupting with a brilliant burst of energy. Her plan was simple: lure them out and let them eat to their heart's content. The arrow released a massive surge of mycelium. A swarm of hidden termites instantly rushed out of hiding. One soldier termite immediately rushed toward the delicious mycelium. but another quickly warned that it could be bait planted by an enemy mushroom and urged everyone not to let their greed get the better of them. The first soldier admitted that made sense, but then suddenly asked where all the ants had gone. The termites, lured by the mycelium, completely lost themselves to their hunger. One starving soldier demanded that a worker feed him immediately. Another flew into a rage after seeing someone had already started eating without sharing. Unable to resist any longer, the remaining soldier abandoned all caution and demanded that a worker termite feed him too. A nearby worker immediately offered to feed him as well. While every soldier termite was completely distracted by the feast, Milan quietly slipped past them in the background. Chaos erupted as the termites shouted and fought over the food. Watching his own troops descend into complete disorder, the soldier termite captain was left utterly dumbfounded. He glared at Saifeng and angrily cursed her. He immediately charged at Saifeng, declaring that what she had done was unforgivable. Saifeng swiftly dodged while firing an arrow at him. The arrow struck the captain's armor, but it bounced right off. The captain mocked Saifeng, saying her frontal attacks would never break through his defenses. Unless she could strike the gaps in his armor from behind, she stood no chance. Suddenly, Saifeng vanished. The captain's eyes widened in shock. Using mycelial dash, she instantly appeared behind him. Her arrow glowed with intense mycelial energy. She drew her bow and unleashed a rapid barrage of arrows. Sensing the incoming attack, the captain turned around and deflected the arrows. However, he quickly realized something. While a single arrow couldn't penetrate his armor, 3 consecutive hits in the same spot created a qualitative change. Then, another arrow slammed into his torso. The captain snapped the arrow in half and arrogantly declared that his armor wasn't just for decoration. Breaking through his defenses would never be that easy. Saifeng gathered her strength, preparing one final attack. The captain laughed, convinced she was desperately flailing around without a plan. Then his smile vanished. A glowing energy blade suddenly materialized. Saifeng activated mycelial dash. The energy blade shot straight toward the crack that had formed in the captain's armor. Saifeng looked down at the defeated soldier termite captain. Suddenly, she sensed a powerful shockwave. She instantly leaped away from it. Then she watched from a distance. A towering figure slowly emerged from the smoke. The monster acknowledged her strength for killing the soldier termite captain and throwing its troops into complete chaos. As it stepped out of the smoke, its identity was finally revealed. It was the Snapjaw Soldier Termite Legion commander. Enraged, the Legion commander ordered its retreating forces to return to the battlefield. Then it slammed the ground with overwhelming force, creating a massive destructive vortex. Saifeng glanced into the distance. In the next instant, a massive swarm of termites burst out and ambushed her. Drawing her bow, Saifeng activated Silk Snare Net. She fired a glowing arrow. The arrow struck the Legion commander's head and exploded into a glowing mycelium net. The net wrapped around the swarm and dragged it backward. Without wasting a second, Saifeng activated Ignite. The Snapjaw Soldier termite sneered and told her not to even think about activating its skills through the mycelium. Then it sliced the net apart. It immediately countered with Vertical Jaw Whip. Saifeng managed to block the attack, but the sheer force caused the ground beneath her to crumble. She immediately leaped away and launched a counterattack. In an instant, she appeared behind the Snapjaw Soldier termite. But the Legion commander proudly boasted about its incredible agility and effortlessly parried her attack. Saifeng's hands trembled. She was so shocked by its speed that she could barely keep hold of her blade. The monster charged again and attacked from above. Saifeng blocked the crushing blow, but she hadn't expected such overwhelming power. The impact sent her skidding backward across the ground. A terrifying purple aura erupted around the Snapjaw Soldier termite. It mocked her, declaring that she would never be able to block its ultimate move. Seeing the Legion commander's stance, Saifeng suddenly remembered something June had told her. Our protagonist had once explained that there was a type of termite capable of pressing its mandibles together. Saifeng asked what happened after that. June explained that once the mandibles snapped past each other, they released an enormous amount of elastic potential energy. She watched as the Snapjaw soldier termite's mandibles slowly moved into position. Then it unleashed the skill, Snapjaw Heavy Strike. The devastating attack blasted Saifeng high into the air. She slammed into the cave wall with a massive explosion. Then she plummeted back to the ground. The Snapjaw soldier termite leaped down after her, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. It rushed forward at incredible speed. Another arrow bounced harmlessly off its armor. The Legion commander scoffed, wondering how many times he had to tell her that arrows incapable of piercing his defenses were useless, no matter how many she fired. Saifeng's body trembled. The Legion commander mockingly praised her determination and willingness to fight to the death. He declared that after tearing her apart, he would present her head to the queen as a souvenir. Then, he ordered the termite army to attack. The swarm immediately charged and surrounded Saifeng. One soldier termite closed in on her. Suddenly, a system notification appeared. She had successfully reconnected to the mycelial network. Then something unexpected appeared. A mushroom man crashed onto the battlefield, crushing a soldier termite beneath his feet. The Snapjaw soldier termite froze in shock. The surrounding termites immediately charged at the newcomer. Then another mushroom man leaped into the battlefield. The two smashed through the termite soldiers. The Snapjaw soldier. Termite watched in complete disbelief. It couldn't understand how the Mushroom Man reinforcements had slipped past the soldier termites and breached the perimeter without triggering a single pheromone warning. Now that the network communication had finally been restored, Saifeng asked if June was there. Our boy replied that he was still wiping out the remaining perimeter forces. He explained that thanks to Saifeng's efforts in helping Milan escape, they had gathered crucial intelligence while they were offline. To counter the termites' heavy armor, he had Firehammer forge a batch of blunt weapons, while also extending the mycelial network throughout the nest. Jun added that he would immediately sync the experience points from his side with hers. He explained that, combined with everything she had already earned, it would be enough for her to level up. Our MC also reminded her to check out the new equipment Firehammer had forged just for her. The system immediately began syncing the experience points. Brilliant mycelial energy enveloped Saifeng. The surrounding mushroom men watched as the aura grew brighter and brighter. Then, a system notification appeared. The Mushroom Man race had successfully advanced to level 9. Saifeng stood before everyone as energy swirled around her. Then she stepped forward wearing an entirely new set of gear. The system announced that she had downloaded the Capskirt flying armor, which integrated with her black tough skin to provide even greater defense. The armor also allowed her to spray spores backward while moving, triggering a brief Capskirt acceleration speed boost. However, it consumed active spores, which required time to regenerate once depleted. In addition, she downloaded armor-piercing arrows forged from hardened materials that delivered exceptional armor-piercing power, along with the skill Meteor Heavy Nail. This skill allowed her to use Mycelial Dash to instantly teleport near an enemy struck by an armor-piercing arrow, activate Cap Skirt Acceleration to reach incredible speeds, and use the Cap Flower Hammer to strike the tail of the arrow, driving it deep into the enemy's body. Finally, she downloaded the Cap Flower Hammer, a weapon specially designed for hammering nails. The Mushroom Man slammed its weapon into the termite's head and sliced it clean off. The termites collapsed onto the ground. Several more termites were taken down. One Snapjaw soldier termite mocked Saifeng, saying she had to gang up on it because she couldn't defeat it alone. Saifeng pointed out that just 3 shroom guards had already taken down over 20 soldier termites, yet it still called this ganging up. Furious, the termite lunged at her and shouted that hiding behind the shroom guards wouldn't save her from being killed. The Shroom Man swung its weapon. The termite ducked under the attack. It leaped backward. 2 shroom men immediately chased after it. Saifeng drew her bow. The termite complained that she was too stubborn. She fired an arrow. The termite shouted that her attacks were useless. But it was wrong. The arrow struck its target. The impact sent the termite flying. It bounced violently off the cave walls. As the smoke slowly settled, the termite staggered back to its feet. It stared in shock and confusion. It couldn't understand how that arrow had suddenly pierced its toughest head armor. Fortunately for it, the arrow hadn't gone in too deeply. It brushed the dust off its body. Then it noticed the arrowhead lodged in its head. Saifeng activated cap skirt acceleration. The termite admitted that she was fast, but it believed she had made a mistake by choosing close combat. Saifeng unleashed meteor heavy nail, while the termite countered with snap jaw heavy strike. Saifeng drove the arrowhead even deeper into the termite's skull. The collision unleashed explosive shockwaves behind the termite. A massive crater was blasted into the cave wall. The termite's head cracked. Moments later, it collapsed. The system notified them that the snapjaw termite had been eliminated. Saifeng suddenly noticed someone nearby. Jun, back in his mushroom form, clapped his hands and praised Saifeng for finishing the fight beautifully. He smiled and said she was truly getting stronger. She asked why he had turned back into a mushroom. Jun replied that he had gotten a little tired of staying in human form, so he decided to switch things up. Suddenly, a loud commotion echoed through the cave. Jun explained that the shroom soldiers were cleaning up the remaining grunts, and they should be getting close to the termite queen's chamber. The pyro shroom engulfed a termite's head in flames. The volt shroom beheaded another termite in the blink of an eye. Saifeng asked if pyro shroom and volt shroom were making a limited time return. Jun nodded and explained that as long as he kept their previous spores, he could plant them again now that his level was higher. With a few more cultivation slots available for shroom soldiers, he had brought both of them back. The remaining termites quickly fell, but suddenly, Jun felt an overwhelming killing intent. A voice roared from the darkness, declaring that this was as far as they would go. Several termites stepped out of the shadows. They revealed themselves as the White Wing General, the self-destruct Vice General, and a sub-Vice General. One termite warned them that the royal grounds lay ahead, and any intruders would be killed without mercy. Jun warned everyone to stay alert. One termite raised its arms, then it brought its fists together. The moment our MC saw its stance, he realized it looked almost identical to the opening stance of the Termite Legion commander that Saifeng had fought before. Another termite launched a slingshot toxic bomb. Jun immediately activated mycelial interception net. The net spread out like a protective barrier. It caught the toxic bomb before it could reach the shroom soldiers. The bomb exploded inside the net. The shroom soldiers remained in place. A blinding flash swallowed the entire cave. Thick smoke quickly followed. Fortunately, Jun managed to pull one shroom guard out of danger. Saifeng and the others escaped unharmed. Jun frowned. He had only been able to save one shroom guard. Although the mycelial interception net had stopped the bomb's movement, the explosion's massive splash of corrosive venom instantly killed the other two shroom guards. Jun realized that while they had high physical defense, their poison resistance was extremely low. He waited for the smoke to clear on the other side. Suddenly, a termite burst through the smoke and charged straight at them. Thanks for watching, bros. If you enjoyed this update, make sure to drop a like and hit subscribe so you never miss the next chapter we upload here on Manhwa Updater. New episodes from the main Manhwa dealer channel will always land here every week, so stick around and stay updated. And hey, if you want more fire stories, check out the latest upload on the main channel right after this. As always, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.